Are we launching? What's going on?
Oh, whoa. No, you were good. You were good. We just didn't know. That's why we asked. That's why we asked. Yeah. Yeah, nor mine. Well, I was just, yeah. I was just asking for her, because, yeah. Man, why'd you leave Judge Dredd, man? Like, damn. I whipped his ass. I whipped his ass. Yeah, he used to be. Yeah, he used to be. Yeah, yeah, because yeah, because that's Dread 29, and he hates me because he knows I kick his ass all the fucking time. Yeah, yeah,
Hunt down and
yeah.
eliminate hostile forces in the area.
He's been known for like sending messages to people saying, "Hey, thank you for your cheating or whatever. For you just donated 300 bucks from your account, blah blah blah, to my stream, blah 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 blah." Yeah, yeah. He's now Judge Dredd too, and I just kicked his ass the very first game. He's an asshole. He's a fucking dickhead. Yeah. Okay, so he's a dickhead then. Yeah, I'm an asshole. That too, if that works. Yep. Yeah, Tinkerbell actually looks better than him now.
Demo is primed.
They got me pinned down! Marking position now.
Shit, pinned down!
Tango down.
Picking up a signal from the recon tower. It'll be active soon.
Trapper's up there with me.
I'm taking fire.
Heads up. We got enemy activity. Frag out. Come mierda, culeros. I'm taking heavy fire.
He probably put a trap on me.
Heads up, I'm placing a mine over here.
He's close. He's close.
That ain't nothing. Grenade, move, move, move!
Oh no.
Man down.
When?
Grenade, move!
Here we go. Frag out.
That looks painful.
Oh, great.
Taking fire.
Grenade, move, move,
Guys,
move!
I'm placing a mine.
Being shot at, man.
Got it. He's down. Recon tower is back online.
Yep. He's in the green building. He's across the street in green.
Yo, we got anti-personnel mines.
I'd say the only person you can get is Sparrow Ronin. Oh. Get him, dude. What are you doing, man?
Taking heavy fire.
He's above you, kid.
All friendlies down. Objective is lost.
I got fucking killed twice because fucking. Oh damn it. Oh well, no, that wasn't. That was some of it, but it wasn't really. I should have. Like an asshole. Man. Yep. Yep. That'll be yeah. That'll clear that up right there, yeah.
Hunt down and eliminate hostile forces in the area.
Drone going up.
Enemy drone overhead. You've got a fix on me.
Right, yeah. She's sucking my dick for my KD, man.
Here.
Enemy's lost visual. Unclear.
I'm placing a mine right here.
He's right here in front. He's right here in front.
So dark. Oh, we got one top. The bush over
You
here.
got two top. You got two top. You got two top.
Okay. I'm holding back for now. I'm being patient.
Okay, just so you know, you just made me start and do my whole thing. Now you've made me stop.
Whoa.
Frag out. Como está, bitches? I'm placing a mine right here.
Picking up a signal
Oh,
from the
you gotta
respawn
send me
tower.
an invite
It'll
to
be
the
active
thing.
soon.
Mm-hmm.
Frag out.
Heads up. We got enemy activity.
Oh, fuck.
Taking fire.
Man down. Man down.
Damn it, man. You...
Eat it, fuckers.
No. Don't pick me up. Don't pick
The
me
drone
up.
is deployed.
Going loud.
No, I'm just a fucking freaking marksman. God damn it, man.
Taking fire. Taking
God damn it, man! What the fuck did I just fucking say?
Recon tower is back online.
Drag out. See you in hell.
You're good.
No. It's right here and right below you.
I'm
All
hit.
friendlies down. Objective is lost.
Oh my god, damn it. Oh, there goes my worst game of the day. Yeah, I'd leave too, Ronan.
It's okay, we'll get him next time.
Yeah. Oh no, I know I can, but when I tell you don't pick me up, don't pick me up. Who is? Who is? Oh, alright.
Alright, Dark, so I have the other two guys muted in the party. And since I'm on air and recording, this is my third live session as Lizard Pharaoh. I have with me a guest today who wants to be known by Phil. And he's a,
Phil?
yeah, he's a renowned philosopher who's interviewed best-selling authors, and he's very in-depth in his knowledge and encyclopedic about myths and legends and some of the transcending stories that go through the depths and space of time, and some of the linguistic things that he studies that go along with that. He's a really interesting fellow to talk to, so he's going to be with us today talking in the background as we go over some of the notes for his video. Go ahead and say hi, Phil.
Pleased to meet everyone. I'm Phil at Magic Jesus channel on YouTube. So just look up Magic Jesus, and I try to get into the origins of what I consider the Christian mythology for the modern student of mythology.
Okay.
And so what I study primarily is called Christ myth theory, and I read the authors in that field that I believe are putting out the best work.
Okay. Right on.
Interesting.
A few
like
recent books would be Joseph Atwell's Caesar's Messiah and Fahey and Valiant's Creating Christ. And these are two books that look at something of a Roman provenance to Christianity.
Okay.
In other words, that it originated perhaps more so with Rome than with even people in Jerusalem. It may have been begun by Jews, for instance, but not have really been from Jerusalem, had come from some place where Jews and other Phoenicians lived in the world.
Right, there's some speculation to be made about the impact that time era had, specifically during the Roman Empire, and how it was very nurturing to the birth of a new set of ideologies, such as a religion. The people were very accepting and ready for that transition as it was occurring during that time period. So it's very interesting that you mentioned that. I think that's an important factor when it comes to like the foundation of certain ideologies such as Christianity and like the myths that go with that. So please do elaborate.
Okay. Well, one thing that the Christians note is that Alexandria seems to be a very culturally influential city at the time. Philo of Alexandria is the greatest.
It's an interview on his stream, man.
Of what
you're good. Go ahead, do what you
was
need to
an
do.
open-minded sort of Judaism in the first century. In other words, Philo doesn't.
No,
take
he's talking. There's an
the
actual
Old
person.
Testament when
He's
reads
actually
he doesn't
interviewing
take it
somebody
literally.
on his stream.
He would see it as
Okay.
parabolic type writing. In other words, it contains a message,
The drone
but
is
it has an ordinary reading, but then there's always a deeper message hidden within the ordinary text.
Right. It's
For
very
the
layered.
more astute reader, for someone who's a big reader of mythology, because everyone's mythology uses very similar writing tropes in the ancient world. Or at least when I say everyone, I mean all the cool people. Some countries had a modicum of literacy. Some had a little more, and that would be like Rome, places like Rome where you might have had literacy reaching as
Yeah, I
high
got
as
shut out of the air too
10%
fast. Sorry.
in the city at times. In the best of times, might have been more around 5%. But many countries in the ancient world would have been lucky to have 1% literate population, you see.
Right.
So there was an elite kind of running things, and they could understand a lot of stuff that the common folk couldn't. But they didn't. That didn't bother them. They would provide a tradition for the common people to believe in. But deep inside that tradition was a deeper tradition for the more learned.
Right. There's something more to be seen than what's just on the surface.
Exactly. It's called the paradigmatic level. When you look beneath the surface level, you can see that there's a theme that's kind of recurrently being used. You might see the idea, for instance, that woman is the source of evil in the world. Okay, women get blamed for it both in Greek and Hebrew mythology.
They gotta take-
We have it with Eve, but she is a version of the
you.
Greek Pandora, for instance. And there are scholars, in fact, Bible scholars teach this. Pandora was the gift of the gods, but she was also something of a punishment of the gods. Now, what you see happen in Eden, what is Eve made from? She's made from the rib coming out of Adam's side, right? So she begins as a pain in the side. Okay, and here we have the male birth image, which is a favorite among the old ones, like when Zeus's father Cronus is spitting out the rock that he was fooled with that he thinks is Zeus. Is he swallowing his kids? Okay, these are male birth images, and they like to do this. Though later they'll have Athena born from the forehead of Zeus, for instance.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah, because it's something of a virgin birth. Well, not really, not in Zeus's case. What Zeus did was he seduced the mother, and then he swallowed the mother. And then he gave birth to the child from his forehead.
What's the tale about him swallowing the mother?
Okay, Athena's mother is Metis. Athena is the goddess of wisdom. Metis means thought. And Zeus swallowed her so she could advise him.
Okay.
But she could sit inside his chest and he would feel her.
But there was nobody over there when I
roughly the idea. She would help him think more clearly. And so then we have Hephaestus breaking his head open with an axe, and this is of course a death symbol.
Right.
But it's also a male birth symbol. Okay, so
Frag out, all
here
out,
she
bitches.
springs out of his forehead, fully armed.
Okay.
Okay, you may notice that the Jewish religion, you'll see Jews
All right, hey,
in
Tank,
Israel
we gotta
wearing
push
this,
church.
a tefillin, and it's worn in the middle of the head, and they bind another tefillin to the hand as well, and they only do it at certain times, from what I
Loading a
understand.
flashbang.
It's not something that they normally wear, but you have this idea of covering the center of the forehead, and that actually comes to us from the Polyphemus myths. If you ever heard about Odysseus in the Odyssey in the cave of Polyphemus and that sort of thing. His escaping the cave is a similar scene to Jesus escaping the tomb. He's like a Greek Christ before Christ.
Step it up.
What do you mean?
We're running out of time.
Well, what I mean is,
Tango down.
if you see him in terms of the hero of the tale, then he can be a Christ. Now, what I think a Christ really is a charis, or a single charity. In other words, a fate. And there are two fates every year. The sun is going to increase starting at New Year's, what we call New Year's. The sun is going to increase for 6 months.
Right.
Then it's going to hit where summer begins.
Is that the equinox or the solstice?
That's the solstice.
The solstice,
When it
okay.
hits the summer solstice, it will then decrease. Okay, so this is
Okay,
the
right.
right. So
That's in what month? June or July? I can't remember.
about June 21st.
Right. Okay. So June 21st
you're
is
gonna
the
have
summer.
the summer solstice.
Coming up behind the
just
church,
like
it sounds like.
about December 21st or 22nd, you're going to have the winter solstice. Okay, now what they used to do was use two heroes in the story to represent these two phases of the year. So each hero of the pair of twins, or whatever they are, brothers or father and son, those two represent a year. They represent signs of the times, you might say. And so this is what you have in the Epic of Gilgamesh. You have exactly this. You have the king and you have the man, the priest. Essentially, you have the warrior and the priest type combination.
I'm gonna mortar the truck. They can't even do anything anyway.
You have the king and the what? You said the warrior and the priest?
Transmission complete.
Well, the king and the priest, or something like that, depending what it's being called. Enkidu becomes King Gilgamesh and stuff like that. Mostly because King Gilgamesh lacks wisdom. Okay, now while while Enkidu may have a kind of simple, innocent wisdom, he seems to get everything wrong. Okay, no matter what they do, he interprets the dreams of Gilgamesh and stuff. Long story short, Enkidu gets himself killed.
Well, why does he do everything wrong? Does he get cursed? Like, what's his story?
Well, no, he's a wild man.
He's a wild man?
Okay. Enkidu and Gilgamesh are being led by Shamash, the sun god. And Shamash has put it into them that they need to go and could do some great deed and that sort of thing. So they go off to the Cedar Mountain. They're going to cut down trees. This is a coming of age ritual that you would associate with spring.
Okay. And that comes into the equinox, right?
Yes, the spring equinox. And this is kind of the middle point between the 2 points I described to begin with, the 2 solstices, okay? They're in the middle, they take off on their journey. But the Hyroskamos would normally occur here, and you do have Enkidu and Shamhat the prostitute engage in the ceremonial sex act, which kings used to perform with a priestess in a city. Now, she is, in fact, a friend of the king Gilgamesh. She seduces Enkidu. They trap him. That's how they get him.
Frag out. Eat it, fuckers.
Okay, Enkidu was created to be a match for Gilgamesh, because Gilgamesh was stealing all the brides. He would claim first night rights with every bride in the kingdom, because...
What was that called?
That was called rights of prima nocta.
Yeah, prima nocta. That's from Braveheart. That's
Okay,
how
yeah.
I'm familiar with it.
Okay, and basically it's a big lie that priests and kings made up at some point.
Right, a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, I
Nobody
think
fucking
what,
had time
what
for
it
that.
really is. But anyway, they were able to celebrate sex in ancient cultures.
Right.
Okay, Mesopotamia, prostitution was legal there and it was accepted.
Right. Different times.
I'm planning a mine here.
Yeah.
Different standards.
Right, it was a different thing, yeah.
There was a different type of culture. What did you call it? Guilt versus shame culture?
Well, it would have been more like a shame culture where it's not about whether you're wearing clothes or not. That wouldn't be the shame. You can look in Greek and Roman statuary and you could see they had very little shame about the human bodies they were carving. Or they had very little guilt about it, I guess is a better way to put it. But the guilt-focused cultures are simply
I got both radios from right here. Everybody just stay alive and make kills if you need to.
Mainly, and where there's more of a straight-laced approach. Many of the Easterners, like the Persians and the desert people, they would have worn a lot of clothing anyway. So they would have considered the Greeks wrong. They would have considered them kind of crossing boundaries that you don't cross with clothing in the kind of running around naked. Nakedness would be associated with shame.
That makes sense.
And so that's a difference in it.
Oh yeah.
Greeks would have been tolerant.
Both of them. Don't even worry about either one of them.
Romans that later Christians.
Yeah, you can go fuck around as much as you want.
You'll see the abortion issue being an issue among Christians.
Okay.
It is a non-issue
right here
in the actual Bible.
He's right there.
Right.
Literally, I mean, if it doesn't entirely ignore the topic, it virtually does.
Right.
Taking fire, I'm fucked.
They seem to very much so celebrate fruition when it comes to producing offspring. Because you have more workers for the
Right, you needed family, and if you were trying to get ahead in the world, if you could get a little plot of land and you had some kids to work it, you know, you could. You had free labor.
Right, you had all that help that you needed. Get you through it.
Also, I mean, even cities would be depleted if they had enough people pass away. They simply couldn't keep the cities going because there weren't enough people coming into it. So that was the thing. But anyway, you have a difference between city culture and country culture being accentuated between the two poles. Now, consider the circle of the year and say you're beginning at the solstice of winter.
Okay, right.
Okay, so between the solstice and the equinox of spring, that's your childhood. Okay, and then the later summer and fall represents older adult. You get married.
Okay.
Okay, then winter, or as you're going fall into winter, you're coming into old age. You see, you can see it as that.
Okay.
And the heroes sometimes act this out in that the son gets into the place of the father. This is a common thing in myth.
Okay.
Theseus, for instance, myths of Theseus, he comes back and King Aegeus is his father. Theseus forgets to change the color of the sails on the ship, and the old man says, "Oh no, my son's dead," and he drowns himself in the ocean, you know. But it shows the gods preparing the way for Theseus to take the kingship, and he comes back, and then he's king of everything.
Uh-oh, it says I'm by myself. It shows I'm by myself.
Right.
Okay.
So, there's an interesting point to make there.
I'm gonna back out and re-invite everybody.
I like what you said. About
re-inviting people, Pharaoh.
Copy
Yeah.
that.
Okay, childhood is a time of being wild. It's
Okay,
a time
so-
before you've been civilized, and that's what Enkidu represents to an extent. You see what I'm saying?
Okay,
It's
yeah.
the wild man. He doesn't know how to eat bread. He doesn't know how to drink wine.
Right.
So he gets taught these things by the prostitute. But these are sacraments in their religion, just like they later become sacraments in the Christian religion.
Okay, makes sense. Right. So the point that I was going to make though was that it was interesting that you brought up a very fascinating idea when you stated that you thought childhood was equal to kind of a quasi Eden experience where you have that innocence of being a child.
Yes,
that
I
is your
equate
Eden.
the Garden of Eden with childhood. Yes, I do.
Okay, yeah. Okay,
It's an
that's
archetype.
an
It's
interesting
an
statement.
archetypal myth in
Right.
that regard.
But yeah, that's fascinating. Right on.
Yeah. Okay, and now again, there's the coming of age is really springtime. You see what I'm saying? In other words, you begin to hit
You start
puberty.
to grow.
You begin
that
to
birthing
hit
of you.
puberty. So you get these cutting down tree myths. You get the stealing the apple that you weren't supposed to take myth from the tree in Eden. What Eden actually represents, and Bible scholars will back me up on this, is the discovery of carnal knowledge. And that's when they get booted from the garden. Okay, and so this is again representative of springtime.
So when
puberty,
they basically when they
and making new
begin to be able to
So
think
if
for
there's gonna be
themselves.
sex and you're stuck in a little garden, you gotta have depth. You see, because otherwise you would overpopulate the garden.
Right. I have to use the restroom real quick. One second. The microphone's still going, so if you want to carry on with your idea.
Okay, here's what they do. Gilgamesh and Enkidu is kind of one of the first myths that was ever written where humans were featured in it. Now,
That's it, you invite.
they are somewhat like demigods. In fact, Gilgamesh is a demigod. He is two-thirds god, he says, which is bizarre because both of his parents are fully gods. So he should be a god. So this is something you notice about the mythic hero mythotype, is that the mythic hero's parentage is always in doubt. There's always something wrong about it. Even in the Odyssey, they have the son of Odysseus, Telemachus, doesn't think that he is his father's son. And so that's how they show it in there. And in fact, he's named after Apollo, in a sense, because Telemachus means fights from afar, and Apollo is Apollo shoot afar. He's a slayer, or something of a throne defender.
A throne defender, is that very common?
Something of that.
You see that
yeah.
role?
Yes, a defender spirits. They're called tutelary gods.
Can you relate that to the what is it? The mother wolf with the two
Yes, you could. Yes, and in fact, that's where we're back to the charities.
Oh, okay.
Because Mother Wolf is actually Artemis.
Right. Oh, okay.
Okay, Artemis is a fierce defender of the young of all species. Her title is Potnia Theron.
Whoa, say that again?
Miss Potnia Theron.
Potnia Theron.
Mistress of the animal.
Mistress of the animal.
Okay.
That's fascinating.
Okay, and she is one of the charities that people don't know about because she's from an older cycle.
Okay.
Okay, so
can you elaborate a little more on that?
The charities come in groups of 2, 3, and 4 in actuality. Now, I'm using charities as a broad term to simply use God characters, or they're often just spirits. They're not really defined very well. It's like a minor god or goddess. Like, Thallo is spring. She's the goddess of blooming plants and things like that.
Come on, Ronan.
And so it's like, okay, that's what she does. Cool. I sent you 2 of them. You know, I mean, it's kind of a very minor character for a god.
Okay, does that come back to like her being one of the meadow nymphs as well?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that does very much. And in fact, this is in Greek myth, you would be looking at Arcadian myth, which is in Arcadia. You have kind of the sons and daughters of many gods who get together. They would just be meadow nymphs, or a satyr, a goat man, or something that runs around being randy and chasing nymphs and trying to seduce nymphs and that sort of stuff. It's basically, it shows the difference in the freeness of nature compared to the human environment. And yet, even they have their political disputes. And so what you could do is you could speak in a roundabout way about current politics by using these old archaic sort of forms of myth. And that's what happened in the case of Jesus. His crucifixion is based on the crucifixion of Marcius. And Marcius is equivalent to a satyr or silent. In other words, he's a goatish man, at the very least.
Okay.
He would have both goat qualities and human qualities. And he's considered a sign of maleness.
Right, masculinity?
As masculinity, exactly, right. As opposed to Artemis, who is a virgin, feminine girl who kills people.
Right.
But she's a warrior goddess. But they make her a virgin. I think she becomes Acalarentia.
Okay. Why do you say that?
In other words, Acalarentia is the adopted mom of Romulus. Just like in the Gilgamesh cycle, Wild Cow Ninsum becomes the adopted mom of Enkidu. Also, Jesus is adopted by the god at his baptism. This is my beloved son in whom I am well pleased, right? Or something like that. Anyway, he gives, in any case, there's an adoption in the Gospel of Mark of the Jesus. In other words, he's not born as son of God.
Pilgrim?
Of the God. Mm-hmm. But is adopted by God. Adoption.
Right? Isn't it John the Baptist that's out there in the river? Jesus goes out there to get baptized, and John goes, one is coming that is greater than I, not yet worthy to untie.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And then after he gets baptized, Jesus baptizes him in the Trinity or whatever, the water, and then, like you said,
right. He comes up out of the water, and a dove descends on him.
Right.
Okay. Now, what's you need to notice here is that then he and the dove are then driven directly to the wilderness.
Right, 40 days of testing.
Okay, and that's representing the temptation. Because remember, he has to rectify what was the original sin, which was discovering carnal knowledge of sex in Eve.
Okay, so
in Eve. So he has to go to the wilderness and be tempted.
Right. So I do have a question for you. When you describe carnal knowledge,
Yes.
you say it's the discovery of sex and reproductivity, right?
Yes.
Would you also maybe, perhaps, include the fact that it's also the discovery of good versus evil, right and wrong, knowing the
Yes.
difference? That's part of the carnal
Yes.
knowledge.
Yes. Yeah, because for instance, young kids don't face severe consequences that they would if they were, say, 14 or something. You consider a 7-year-old more inherently innocent than you do a 14-year-old.
Correct. Right.
Hunt down and
I see
eliminate
that.
hostile forces
But
in the area.
but what I'm saying is what it really comes down to is sex and death are bound together, because whatever environment you're in, if you overpopulate it, you ruin it.
So, would you agree with, like, there's reoccurring themes of population control throughout, like, ancient empires and stuff?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you see that reoccurring in myths?
What the traditions usually do is they speak on both sides of it.
Okay.
For instance, if you were living on an island, the idea that you would be fruitful and multiply wouldn't last very long before it ruined the island. You see what I'm saying? It depends on your circumstances. But ultimately, any environment is subject to abuse by humans, and they saw this much more than we do.
C4 in place.
They would have been more sensitive to the idea of humans spoiling an environment.
Please carry on.
Which the first metropolitan areas had
Planning
to do.
mine here.
In a sense, the herding culture considered the people in the city very corrupt. Okay, they considered the cities very
Placing a mine
places
right
of
here.
a corruption of what was natural,
I'm pinned down. Somebody shoot that fucker.
human rights and things like that.
Why did they consider it corrupt? Like, what?
Because
what is it?
basically, once you start
Signal
working
from the
for
recon
money,
tower. It'll be active soon.
you get sold into a system where you have to become something of a yes man that the wild, free herder,
Indebted
hunter-herders,
servitude.
they wouldn't have believed in.
Watch it.
It becomes a bunch of. You mentioned it earlier one day on one of our walks.
Grenade, get to cover.
You mentioned. Excuse
That's a
me.
kill.
You mentioned that when you're in a city, there's unspoken laws that you unconsciously agree to.
The trapper's
Like-
next to me.
There's
He's
all
always
kinds
been
of
building
move
with
into
me.
a subdivision and
So-
see how much you really own your house.
Right. No kidding. So
There's all kinds of things you can't put up this in your front yard.
right,
You can't
collecting
put up that.
rainwater, things of that
Okay,
nature, like
there's a million
plumbing,
things like that.
electrical, and
Man
all
down.
that. Like,
I'm
really,
sorry, I'm being hyperbolic. But,
right. I
but there are
digress.
a number of things like that that a free hunter-herder would not have wanted to readily adapt to.
Right, it kind of violates that, like, honest living of working and getting your living from the
Exactly.
earth. You know, what you can work for is what you can provide for yourself and your family.
Exactly.
When you go into the city and it becomes indebted
but let's
servitude.
speak up for the city. Let's look at the other side of this. Okay, they use the craftsman god a lot because he's lame. Okay, and he tends to be lame because he's seen as being born from the earth, and the earth, anything born from the earth is a monster.
Okay.
So he's lame, and he
Taking fire, fucking
He
hell!
tried to lag switch me.
he
Black Gate
represents
just tried to lag
someone
switch me.
who can work because
Yeah,
of the city.
I freaking shot him,
And
filled him
because
full of
of
lead, and I was like, I'm
human
out, I'm fucking out of here. See you later.
and sales and that sort of stuff. He can sell his wares or provide a service. He can do this in the city, and he can get by. He couldn't be a hunter-herder because he can't walk well enough to do it. You see what I'm saying?
But yeah, okay.
And so the cities did make it so that some people had a better chance at life, like, for instance, if they happened to be born lame in antiquity, and such things did happen. Lameness, club-footedness they were not that rare.
Right. And they really put people out of work and made them get into that indentured servitude.
Yeah, it made it hard, but these were good, folks, and there's no reason they couldn't have jobs if they learned to use their hands or something.
Right. There was a lot of people that put their, the advantages to good use, and they were able to use the contracts to gain wealth.
Right. So what
systems.
we're dealing with are images of craftiness, and they often come down to the two poles. And one is attraction and the other is repulsion. Okay, one is love, the other is war.
Okay.
And so you'll find sex and death showing up in the most important images as primary themes, whether it's Marduk creating the universe out of the dead corpse of Tiamat, or it's the demythologized version of that. And Yahweh shapes the universe, and from it arises Tohu and Bohu, which are Tiamat and Behemoth, and they're first two archetypal gods of the creation. They would be what are primordial gods, meaning they would actually possess both male and female qualities, probably. And he would represent the land, and she represented the ocean. Okay, he represented earth, and she represented sea. In the first instance of creation, because Genesis says that the earth rose out of the sea, and that is a birthing. Essentially, Tiamat gave birth to the abyssal waters, Tiamat. She is the Tehom, the deep, in Hebrew. And yeah, her name means the ocean. But she gave birth to Behemoth. And Behemoth represents the red-blooded animal because they saw the land as being red. All of Asia, the earth is considered red, and they associate that red with the fertility of the land.
Okay.
And then you'll often see where a twin is killed. The primordial twin in the myth, hero, is killed by the first.
Taking fire, taking fire.
As for instance, Romulus is slain by Remus, or Enkidu gets slain out fighting with Gilgamesh. And that sort of stuff.
Okay. It's interesting to note the twos here, and how there's those duos. And
exactly.
that reoccurring theme of two in those polar opposites.
Okay, well, duos is a paranomasia, like I was explaining
before.
the
Babelwalkie.
Naming alongside Babelwalkie, that's what I call it.
I like the Babelwalkie term that you coined.
Let's call it
and what's
that.
What's the official term? It's
Paronomasia. Paronomasia. It means alongside naming. So if you take the charity goddesses I'm talking about, they're known as the Moirai. Well, there's a goddess in Cyprus named Mira. Is Mira a Moira? Okay, you want to ask yourself.
Who's that?
And is she? Yeah, she is. Yeah, my
Could you
guess
spell
is
that
she
term
would.
again? Paronomasia?
Oh, Paronomasia.
Paronomasia. Would you spell it for me?
Paronomasia. Para means alongside. Onomasia means naming.
Onomasia. Okay.
So it's alongside naming. So you could take the lily flower and you could look at the goddess Lilith and you could say, well, is there a connection? Doesn't one idea suggest the other? Isn't a lily a feminine symbol? Yeah.
Right,
yeah,
I would agree with that.
Typically. It depends how it's presented. But, the lotus, for instance. The lotus is a big thing throughout East Asian religion. And so you often have things like that they happen to be a feminine symbol. Lilith is the goddess I'm thinking they have in Mesopotamia. But I'm sorry, I'm just trying to give an example of related names. I don't really want to get into Lilith's
fair enough.
Mythology.
We will digress.
Yeah, so I'm sorry to kind of hit a dead end with that, but I want to move into some other stuff. Basically, I want to get on the idea. There's two inherent seasons to the year.
Frag out.
And
see you in
these
hell.
became represented as two male characters in the early myths, Gilgamesh and Enkidu. But you could also compare John and Jesus. And going back to duo, this is what I want to get at. Duo reminds you of Dios.
Right.
You see, in fact, Dionysos is one of the earlier terms of Dionysus. Okay, so it's you'll find that because of Proto-Indo-European language, It stretches all the way from East Asia to West Europe and into
Hang on.
North Africa
No,
in antiquity.
we'll find
And
them first.
it came with the people that branched out from the Central Asia plains, and they went both directions. To the far east and to the far west, and these are the people who ended up establishing the first cities.
Yeah.
First cities that got the first writing. Once writing came in, you had a portable story.
Right.
No.
That's where you started getting more
Cool
records
bags.
as well.
Right. Once you got away from
Here we go, frag out.
cuneiform, once you got away from hieroglyphics, okay, and you had writing. Writing became much more portable. You could send stories all anywhere. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely.
And so they became good ways to hand stories down.
One hostile remaining.
You would recopy a book, have a book remade, because books were that expensive in antiquity.
Right.
Fucking
Well,
hell!
what do you
Take it
mean?
easy.
Like in all of antiquity? Excuse me. Would you say that books are relatively hard for some of the poor crowd to
How
get?
about you not
Well,
Well, there
let
would
me
be
okay.
a different type.
By the time you're into the Greek classical period,
The three-story building.
You have the establishment of Greek as a
Yeah.
language throughout the ancient world. You have libraries in a number of locations. Cities tend to have libraries.
Right. Some
Throughout
of
the Hellenistic
more
period, the later
centralized.
right into the Hellenistic period, Alexander
That means he ran out the
and
back then.
onward.
Okay, makes sense.
Okay, and there is
that
an
him?
explosion of interest in global culture.
Man down, man down.
And so people start writing myths that kind of join groups of people together, and that's kind of the aim of it. You could read the old Phoenician myths and stuff like that, and you
Quit
could
complaining.
appreciate them
Step it up.
regardless where you
Running
were
out of
from.
time.
Okay, Epic of Gilgamesh in 1400 BC went all over the ancient world as a writing. We have it in
Strike
Israel.
out.
We have it in Lebanon. We have it all over the place. Okay, so the ancestors of the people who wrote the Bibles had those stories.
But where did they get their stories from, though? Like, where did that all start?
Okay, here's what happens is, even whether you were looking at this, the cities, the king of the city myth became a real thing. And Gilgamesh, for instance, is a tyrant in a
Right.
sense. He's
Okay.
tyrannical in every way. But when I say tyrant, I mean that specifically, that he is tyrannical. He takes advantage of all the people, largely because he lacks wisdom. But he does go off and he gains wisdom, and he brings back the wisdom from before the flood, and the people honor him for that.
Okay.
Okay, and that's why Gilgamesh went. He wanted to become famous and have his name written on bread. That was his whole goal. And so he did, in fact, do that. And on the way, he got offered a chance for to extend his life. He was given a fruit by the Noah character in that story, and he lost it, and a serpent ate it, and then shed its skin.
Okay. That's an interesting point that you make, Phil. This brings me to my next question. I'm kind of curious. Do you see any reoccurring patterns in this story that you're talking about with Gilgamesh here?
Yes.
What kind of concepts are you seeing that are starting to become like a pattern for you?
Well, okay, I see them across the various different epics that had them.
He's just doing an interview on the street.
I'm trying to think, because there's one.
Just a friendly lizard.
Some
lizard
things
clan
show up in
video.
Homer.
Just a
They
friendly
show up in
interview
Greek
stream
myth that are clearly of the Mesopotamian origin.
Trying to mix it up a
You
bit.
can tell they just reworked it and put it into a Greek myth.
For anything, I guess. For
Um,
anything. Just for content.
I'm trying to
Right,
think.
good
Okay,
conversation
cheating
with
the
friends.
god.
Cheating the gods.
Cheating the god. Okay, here's what happens. In my version of Eden, the god is cheating the humans. Okay, he leaves them in Eden. He knows that snake's in there.
Okay, so right off the bat, when you start talking about your version, I'm kind of curious. Sorry to interrupt, but when you start talking about your version, I notice how you flip it, where the gods cheated the humans. Why do you start with that simple?
Well, I'm trying
right
to
there?
get to something people might be familiar with. Okay, Prometheus cheated Zeus out of the sacrificial offering.
Right. Okay.
Okay, and this is called a comedy of innocence because cheating the human is the same thing. Here's what the priests used to do. They used to put cakes on the altar, and they would lead animals around the altar, and whatever animal went for the cake got the chop.
See, that's not very common knowledge.
That's right. It's not. That's the comedy of innocence that is going on in the Garden of Eden story. The two innocent babes are left in the dangerous garden, where they get manipulated by the serpent, who is probably a defender of the tree.
Hunt down and eliminate hostile forces.
Okay, in a sense.
Okay, so I see that you're kind of like flipping this idea around, and you're using a perspective that's kind of unique, where you're reversing that role right off the basis, right there, right off the bat. That really opens up a lot of broader perspective with that.
But see, it's all a competition. It's the ancient gods. You worshipped them, you venerated them, you feared them, but the heroes always cheated them if they could, because the gods were going to cheat the humans if you didn't. Okay, in other words, you're kind of in a competition with the gods to an extent. The heroes in the stories are always pushing the definition of what it means to be human. That's why we engage in so much
A lot of fire over here.
hero worship. It's what is culturally done. It's what's been done ever since there was a Hercules. And Gilgamesh was actually...
And they got an echelon.
But, we're just not familiar with those, nowadays, with those ancient texts. But okay, here's what happens is... Enkidu thinks he's found the greatest thing in the world. He's found a prostitute offering herself to him. He gets lured in. He gets lured in and trapped into the web of the city.
Okay, the classic.
And even in the course, I monitor
Heads up.
basically
What?
a lecture series by
Yeah, I don't fucking think so,
exactly
man.
how he describes
I
that
don't fucking
experience.
think so.
Is that
Black
he's lured
8, you
into a
lag
spider-
switching
he's-
hoe.
Enkidu is lured into a spider's web. Okay, so this is
Yeah,
temptation.
yeah, I got lag
the
switched by
temptations
Black
of
8.
spring,
I only got hit
the
by one bullet and I didn't even see that guy.
temptations of, the joys. She teaches
Yeah,
him
because the
to
guy that was
drink
behind me
wine
wasn't
and
even
eat
him.
bread, and he drinks 7 glasses and eats a lot of bread, right? Because he doesn't know how much is enough or too much or anything, right?
Right, he's kind of clueless.
Yeah, it's like that. And so it's something of a comedy of innocence. You're being made corrupt by the city, and yet it will be your own corruption that gets you in the end. If if you don't develop a
No,
sense
they're
of
gonna
right
do it,
and
but it ain't gonna
wrong,
work this time.
you're going to fall for any temptation is what's going to happen. You're not going to, you see,
Right.
is the idea. So what has to happen is as we age, we develop wisdom. And so this is something that gets reiterated.
Hunt down and
Okay,
eliminate
does that
hostile
correlate with the
forces in
season,
area.
perhaps?
What now?
Would you think that correlates with the season? Kind of like a 3-season cycle?
Yes. Yeah, but you can, what I'm saying is the year is automatically divided into 2 seasons. It's got a good one and a bad one.
Right.
Then later, people came to see 3 seasons in some parts of the world. Throughout Greece, this is the norm. And so the fates got attached to that idea. And
placing a mine over
they
here.
would explicate then in myth these various seasons that characters would represent symbolically, yes. They're called Clotho, Lachesis, and Atropos in the common form, the way they're found in the Greek myth. Clotho spins the thread,
I'm pinned down.
Lachesis measures the length of
Yeah,
the thread,
fucking he's-
and Atropos cuts
he's
the
cheating,
thread.
dude.
So this gives you beginning, middle, and end.
Grenade.
If you're a Hindu, it's Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva.
No, I mean, like, he
The
had no
creator,
eyes
the
on me.
preserver
He had
of
no
the
eyes on
destroyer.
me, man.
Now,
Like,
Jesus is a preserver.
Why do you say that?
Because Christ is a savior, and a savior is a preserver.
Fair enough. That's about
Okay, now
You can
we
get
just
me up with that
described
medic if
as
you can, whenever
wine.
you can. I don't care.
Wine is preservative. It's a
Drone
preserved
going
food,
up.
you see.
Oh, okay.
It's also a
Signal from the
cultured
recon
food.
tower.
It's a
It'll
food
be
of
active soon.
civilization.
Right.
That's one reason, and it's got that wonderful red
Heads up,
color,
minefield.
which
Man down,
makes
man
it
down.
perfectly
I'm
Yeah.
hit. I'm hit.
suitable to be used as symbolic blood.
Okay.
Okay, and blood
Yeah.
magic
Yeah,
Grenade.
you
Get
just
to
put a
is
mine
what
cover.
back on my
our
body.
society always was about.
No, you just put a mine on my body.
So, blood. We have blood showing up in our ritual, and the meal, the
We got
sacrificial
anti-personnel
meal.
lines.
This is a binding ritual that's in many, many religions.
What do you mean by binding ritual?
You're binding the individual.
No,
to
it's
the group.
it's trapper, not a snapper.
Yeah,
Okay.
religion's never about you.
Everybody's been
by the
marked.
way,
You're going against
regardless
Trapper,
what they
Assassin,
say.
Point
It's
Man,
always
Vanguard.
about the group of religious people.
Oh, that's because I'm the only one that got Vanguarded. I got you.
We've got enemy activity.
I'm the one that got Vanguard. That's how I know. Right there, just jumped off the balcony. Jumped off the balcony right next to you, Pharaoh. Just went in the building.
Recon
He's
tower is
glitching.
back online.
Frag out.
Yep, see?
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Right there next
Don't
to
be
you.
Sorry.
Got into a heated moment there in the game. We got a lag switch on the other team, so unfortunately we're dealing with some problems. It's on the beach. This is Lizard Clan coming at
Okay,
you.
don't get me a three of mine on me.
We're
unless you
finding
throw a grenade on me.
conversation
Frag
as we
out. Eat
play
it, motherfucker.
with Phil here, the philosopher. A well-spoken, thoughtful
Frag out.
gentleman.
Hola,
Just
putas.
having some coffee and a good old talk. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that share button. Shout out to Lizard Clan. We go dark.
Yep.
We're both down, but you know, things happen.
Right. Well, I'm getting glitched. I can't fuck that.
Right, there's not much you can do against Lizard.
He's killing me and I don't even see him.
That's right.
One hostile
Where were we,
remaining.
Phil?
Let's get this done.
Huh?
Where were we? Where's your next note for insert?
Oh, well, I'm gonna go take a cigarette break.
Okay.
So let me go ahead.
Alright, we're
and
gonna
do
have a
that.
brief
No, it's
intermission.
Trapper, man. I'm telling you, I see all four
Thanks for
people.
watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this segment. There may be another installation. We will see. We're gonna have a
No,
brief
I know that
intermission.
because only the
Thanks for
people that got
watching.
Vanguard are the ones that know what they are.
Until next time.